Some rooms are locked to protect what's inside, but some rooms are locked to protect us. This is the story of a black magic room that was never meant to be opened. And the one night, when it finally was, in the outskirts of a forgotten town stood an old ancestral house. There were no streetlights, no neighbors, just a narrow, winding road and a silence so deep it rang in your ears. People avoided that house. It wasn't because it was haunted, but because it was warned. Generations ago, the owner of the house was a powerful practitioner of black magic, a tantric, so feared that even other tantrics kept their distance. When he died, the house didn't become empty. One room was sealed forever. No windows, no ventilation, no light, only a heavy wooden door, with iron nails hammered into it, forming the shape of strange, unsettling symbols, and a single, unbreakable rule passed down through the decades. Never open that room. Not even once. After years of abandonment, the house was sold for a fraction of its worth. A man named Raghav, his wife Mira, and their 10-year-old son, Arav, moved in. They were a modern family, grounded in logic, not superstition. They didn't believe in ghosts or curses or black magic. The house was old but strong. It was affordable and, most importantly, quiet. To them, it seemed perfect. On their very first day, as they were exploring their new home, Mira noticed the locked door at the far end of the upstairs corridor. "Why is this room sealed?" she asked the real estate broker. The broker hesitated for a moment, shifting his weight uncomfortably. "That room, it has no key," he said, his voice dropping slightly. "It's been locked for decades." Raghav just laughed it off. Old houses, old stories. They ignored it, dismissing it as a quirk of the property. That was their first mistake. The first week was completely normal. The family settled in, the rhythms of their daily life slowly filling the ancient silence of the house. Then, small, unexplainable things began to happen. At night, Arav started complaining of whispers. They weren't loud, not clear enough to make out words. He described them as sounding like someone chanting far, far away. Mira began to smell something strange, lingering near the locked room. It was a peculiar, sickening mix of burnt hair and incense. Raghav, ever the rationalist, blamed it on old wood and poor ventilation. He held on to his skepticism until one night. At exactly 3:12 a.m., the entire house went silent. Utterly, unnervingly silent. The chirping of insects outside, the rustle of the wind, even the distant barking of dogs, it all just stopped. And from behind the locked door, 3 slow knocks echoed down the corridor. Not a desperate banging, but 3 deliberate, measured knocks, as if someone inside was politely asking for permission to come out. After that night, everything changed. The dreams started. Each member of the family began having the same terrifying, recurring dream. A dark room, lit only by flickering oil lamps. Strange symbols drawn on the floor in what looked like dried blood. And a voice, a disembodied whisper, repeating the same sentence over and over. "Open the door." The nightmares bled into their waking lives. Arav woke up one morning with faint, black fingerprints bruised onto his arm, as if someone had gripped him in his sleep. Every morning, Mira would find a fine layer of black ashes scattered on the floor near the sealed door, no matter how many times she cleaned it. Raghav started losing time. He'd find himself standing in the corridor, staring at the door, with no memory of how he got there, or how long he'd been standing. Still, the door remained locked. It felt like the entity behind it wanted them to open it, but wasn't quite ready to force the issue. It was patient, toying with them, letting the fear build. One evening, as dusk settled over the property, an old woman appeared at the front gate. Her eyes were clouded over with white cataracts, yet she seemed to see them with an unnerving clarity. She raised a trembling, bony finger and pointed directly at the house. "You open the house," she croaked, her voice dry as dust. "But you must never, ever open the room." Mira's blood ran cold. She felt a primal fear grip her. "What room?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. The old woman's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. "The room that feeds on fear. The room that holds unfinished rituals." Before Mira or Raghav could ask more, the woman turned and walked away, her bare feet making no sound on the broken stones of the path. That night, the knocking returned. But this time, it wasn't just from the door. It was from inside the walls, all around them. Driven by a mix of terror and desperation, Raghav began searching the house for answers. In the dusty, forgotten attic, tucked away in a dark corner, he found an old trunk. Inside, wrapped in black cloth, was a diary. The pages were brittle with age, the writing a spidery scrawl in faded red ink. The diary belonged to Pandit Kolnath, the tantric who had once lived and practiced his dark arts in this very house. Raghav's hands trembled as he read one of the last entries. "What I summoned cannot be destroyed. It can only be contained. The room is its prison. If the door opens, it will choose a new host." His heart hammered in his chest. But it was the next line that chilled his soul to the bone. "It learns voices. It learns faces. It learns families." Suddenly, from downstairs, a piercing scream from Arav shattered the silence. They raced down and found Arav standing motionless in front of the locked door. He was smiling, but it wasn't his smile. It was a cold, cruel, ancient grin. And then he spoke, his own lips not moving, the voice coming from him, but not of him. "You already opened it, by bringing me here." As the words hung in the air, the iron nails hammered into the door began to vibrate violently. Cracks spider-webbed across the old wood. Something was pushing from the inside, something immensely powerful. The faint chanting they'd been hearing grew louder, more frantic, filling the house. Mira fell to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. Raghav lunged forward, trying to pull Arav away from the door, but the childless body was ice-cold to the touch. And he was heavy, impossibly, unnaturally heavy. At exactly 3:15 a.m., the nails shot out from the door like bullets, ricocheting off the walls. The door creaked open with a deep, groaning sound. Inside was not a room. It was a ritual chamber. Skulls were embedded in the walls, their empty sockets like 1,000 staring eyes. Dried, blackened blood formed intricate circles on the floor. And in the center of the chamber, there was a black stone altar. Something moved in the absolute darkness. It wasn't walking. It wasn't crawling. It was unfolding itself. A voice, ancient and full of rage, echoed from the chamber. "You sealed me unfinished." At that moment, Arav collapsed to the floor like a puppet with its strings cut. The thing lunged from the darkness, moving towards Mira. But in a desperate act, Raghav grabbed the old diary and slammed it down onto the black stone altar. The symbols on the diary's pages began to glow and burn. The entity let out a scream, a sound not meant for human ears, a sound that seemed to tear at the very fabric of reality. The house caught fire. Neighbors reported seeing flames licking the sky, but heard no screams, no sounds of a family in distress. By the time firefighters arrived, the house was a raging inferno. They found Raghav and Mira outside, dazed and covered in soot, huddled together in shock. Arav was never found, and the room? It was gone. When the fire was finally extinguished, investigators found that the corridor no longer ended in a door. There was just a solid brick wall, seamless, as if the room had never existed at all. Even today, the burnt-out shell of the house stands abandoned. And the local people say, if you're brave enough to go there, and you place your ear against that wall at exactly 3:12 a.m., you can hear a child whisper, "The room is still hungry." Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more Tales from the Shadows.